My name is Severo Lara. Right now, I'm the current president of the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. And I also want to acknowledge our executive director, Russell Sidney. We acknowledge Kit Stoll, who is our other board member, and we also have another board member, Heather, here tonight. And we're really proud to be co-sponsors of this film with Transition to Organics. Just a little history. I'm proud of Ojai, and I'm proud to be a part of this city because shortly after the city of Santa Monica passed a rodenticides resolution, the city of Ojai also did it. And this was largely a big part of Patty Begley's leadership. So I want to acknowledge Patty a lot for this. Also, as part of a former elected official, city council member, and the mayor of Ojai, I also sat on another policy committee where I saw Beth come in with the P22 at the biggest regional agency in the United States, come in and was able to get the majority of support from this agency to build that corridor. So Beth has done an amazing job here in Southern California. So please, let's acknowledge Beth. And up next, we do have a panel that's going to be moderated by Ed Begley. So with further ado, let's welcome Ed Begley, and he will be walking up the stage too.
Thank you all for coming. Wasn't that great? There's a few people that know, Cass knows, that I used to live here in beautiful Ojai from 84 through 88, and you're so lucky to live up here. You're so smart to live up here. It's a beautiful part of the state, a beautiful part of our country and our world. And great to show this movie here where my kids went to middle school. It's a lovely auditorium, and Patty, what you do every day and what everybody in this Green Coalition, your wonderful environmental community here does. A big hand for the green community in Ojai, please. You know, there's some people that are derisive of different species. I've heard this certain radio DJ and talk show host, I won't mention his name, but he would say, I wouldn't give up all the spotted owls in the world for one California job. Even if that you believe that, if you don't care about the spotted owl or this puma, if you don't care about these animals, for your own well-being, you have to ask yourself, for your own survival, how many rivets can you lose from an airplane before it ceases to fly? Now that's something for an aeronautical engineer. Somebody here may know that. Is it 3? Is it 23, 103? I don't know, but at some point, the plane is going to crash with all of us on it. That's what all these plant and animal species are. They are rivets in an airplane that keep us all aloft, and we have to protect them for our own well-being, and of course for all the other wonderful reasons. We already thanked Russell Sidney. It's worthy of thanking him again from the Ojai Valley Green Coalition. And here tonight we also have, is the director, Tony Lee, here tonight? I wasn't sure about that. Director is not here, but I know for a fact that the cinematographer is Alex Rapaport. What a great job in the cinematography. Alex, where are you? Right there. I understand that Sherry Ferber's here from the Liberty Canyon townhouses. Is Shelley here too? Where's she? Okay, the panel. First of all, I want to call up Beth Pratt-Bergstrom, the California Director of National Wildlife Federation. Beth, come on up here. She's my hero. She's doing great stuff every day. And Joel and Kian Schulman from Poison Free Malibu. Come on up here, Joel and Kian. Thank you guys for being here and for all that you do. And Dr. Robin Bernhoft from the environmental medicine, right here from Ojai, practices medicine here in Ojai and is a great environmentalist. Robin Bernhoft, will you please come up and be part of our panel? I'll let everybody get settled here. We're going to have Q&A where everybody's going to have a chance to ask them a question. Well, not every single person, but many of you. But I'm going to start it off with a few questions of my own. Let everybody get situated here. Oh, much better, thank you. Hands-free. I needed a hands-free device. Okay, Beth.
Dr. Bernard wasn't able to make it.
Thank you for that. Dr. Bernard was not able to make it, so we will not wait for Dr. Bernard, but thank you for all the work you do every single day. After this panel, we're going to have at any time, we want to make sure that people get involved, and there's cards that we handed out, and we want you to fill it out and maybe even consider making a donation. I'm going to make a donation later, so I hope everybody follows suit and does that. But let's get to the panel right away here. We've got a great panel, and we want to start asking some questions, and I'm going to start with Beth. Beth, tell me about that wildlife corridor and that wildlife crossing. The one question I had right away was why would the animal pick that spot to cross? Why wouldn't they just cross anyway, further, east or west? How does that work?
Yeah, we don't, they don't follow crossing signs, so we just can't put up a light and say cross here. But what's interesting, and I've visited a lot of these crossings across the country, this one is a no-brainer because they're already trying to cross there. The National Park Service has 70,000 data points on these GPS collars, and I wore one of those collars on the hike. It's not that heavy. But so there, as Clark said in the movie, there's just no space left. This is the place they're trying to cross because there's development on both sides. So it's pretty much a no-brainer that they're going to use it. One of the crossings I visited in Colorado, the deer started using it 2 days after it was completed. But we will do things like fencing and vegetation to filter the animals there. But on this one, my prediction is once this is built, we'll have a mountain lion going over pretty quickly after.
I think if the deer are using it, the mountain lions will use it too.
Exactly. They follow their buffet.
Okay, good to know. Joel and Kian, the rodenticide issue, what are the non-toxic alternatives? Are they easy? What can you do instead of using these rodenticides? Tell me what alternatives exist.
The clear alternatives that we have discovered after working in 11 cities here is sanitation and exclusion. These are the basics of how one can control any kind of problems that you might have with mice or rats, and the solution is through sanitation, controlling your trash, controlling your environment, cleaning up, sealing up, and trapping up with live traps once the situation is under control.
The issue of pesticides is something very close to me, and I'll tell you why, and toxics in general. I had this, there's a documentary that I worked on. It was about the UN body burden test. The United Nations, UNEP did a thing, United Nations Environmental Program, with me and somebody from Sweden and somebody from another part of the globe, and they tested all of our different blood levels for different things, for BPAs and phthalates and everything, and they tested for pesticides. I had a high level of pesticide in my blood, very high of DDT, and I wondered for half of 1 second why that was. And then I remembered when we were kids, we would spray each other with the DDT. There was no big program with the adults saying, don't go near that. They didn't put it in a locked area. There was a sprayer with DDT in it. That's what it was. I was born in 1949, so that's what you used back then. And people would kids would run after the truck that was spraying the DDT on the foliage on the side of the road. Well, there's mist on a hot day. I'm sorry, we weren't very smart. For the young people, you're wondering why we wound up like this. How did we get in the situation we're in at this point since November? That's why.
Actually, this poisoning is still going on. The poisons are in the air that we breathe, the food that we eat, and our entire environment is still inundated with these pesticides. This is why these organizations such as Transition to Organics are so very important. There's nationwide studies of women's umbilical cord blood across the nation where they tested their blood, and they have 43 different pesticides in the umbilical cord blood, which means that we are still birthing handicapped children. And I, as a nurse, as a background, we have no idea where all of these cancers and asthmas and allergies come from, but I can give you one good guess. It comes from the food that we eat. And so we have to be really careful with eating organics and demanding that these pesticides are not placed in our foods, that are not being sprayed in our airs, that our children, especially in our schools, are not being subjected to these pesticides. The answer is going organic.
If you wonder about my current mental state, I can also say there's another explanation I just remembered. When I was 1 year old, I was crawling on the floor and I drank ant poison. They somehow pumped my stomach and I lived through it, but what have you, but I drank it. That might account for the high level of pesticides. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. True story, I wouldn't make that up. Cass, verify this for me, she knows. But we've got a lot of audience members out there that want to ask questions. So you tell me at what point can we get people up here to ask a question? Is there a mic set up somewhere for them to ask?
Can I make a suggestion, which is that Alex Rapaport was heavily involved. He was almost, he was really the assistant director, and he did most of the camera work. It might be good to have him come up here.
Alex, would you please come up and grace us with your wisdom and your presence? Alex Rapaport, wonderful cinematographer. Thank you so much. We're setting up a mic right now, and I will also chime in while we're setting the mic up and say, I know myself, I'm playing a little bit dumb here. I know that non-toxic alternatives work. I've been gardening since I had my first house in 1979. I've been growing organic food in my backyard and making clean, wonderful compost and doing it all without pesticides, herbicides, fungicides, rodenticides, and guess what? It works. And we need to do that more than ever with our kids because, they're by body weight, the amount of pesticides or other toxins that they ingest with whatever, foods and liquids that they're drinking and the exposures crawling around the floor. We use some of these non-toxic things on our floors for floor cleaners and what have you, and kids are crawling on the floor and putting their hands in their mouth and what have you, so they're getting a heavy dose of that. And how long have you guys been working on that issue in Malibu?
Basically, I think it was it late 2012, when P25, which was in Point Mugu State Park, which is nearby, was found dead, and the analysis showed it was poisoned. Whether or not it was the exact cause of death or not is not determined because it was too late. But and then journalism helped. Our local newspaper, we had a courageous reporters there, Suzanne Guldeman, who's a treasure of Malibu. Many people know her. And we learned from our media. That's how important the media really is. And we found this unacceptable. We had done previous environmental work, mainly in saving open space. We thought that by making as much wildlife-friendly acreage as possible, that's what needed to be done. So we were really upset to find out that even in the middle of beautiful Point Mugu State Park, animals were not free. They were still not free, and we had to do more to protect the wildlife inside.
I think we're set up now with microphones, aren't we? If people want to ask a question, please come up, and we'll get into some Q&A now with our wonderful panel. So step right up here and don't be bashful.
How do we get, it sounds like there would be good to have a state-mandated anti-pesticide policy. How do we get that? How do we get that? And also, how does one get their city? And I was just at a local city college, and I saw those little plastic things outside the building all around. Will they be responsive? So those three, how would one approach that?
Who wants to take that first?
Okay, the legal situation, we could talk in even more detail because we're heavily involved in that. We're involved in the city of Malibu, in the county of Los Angeles, and with our state legislators, in particular Richard Bloom, who's our assemblyman, and Fran Pavley and Henry Stern. So you can, if you're curious, we'll tell you in great detail. But the main challenge is there is a law called preemption that was put into effect by the pest control industry because in the 1980s, Mendocino County wanted to stop their children being sprayed by herbicide, which was happening. So Mendocino County passed a law banning the spraying of their children. The pest control industry and the agriculture industry fought that over a few years, all the way to the California Supreme Court, and lost. Mendocino County won. So the pest control industry, with their lobbyists, went to the state legislature and had this special law passed called preemption, preventing localities from regulating pesticides. Is that amazing? So we are fighting that now, but it's really hard because we have very powerful lobbyists working against us and lots of great friends working for us. So we do lots of stuff on various levels. Like, when you find a school or a shopping center full of the boxes, which you'll see in the back next to the garbage, we in Malibu, especially Kian here, has cleaned up a large part of Malibu by going to the property managers, the stores, the homeowners associations, a tremendous amount of work, which is, if we had thousands of people helping us, we could actually clean up California. But we obviously need action on the local level, on the state level, and we are please come and see us if you want to help, especially any organizations, and we're working on it, and it's tough.
Diane, good to see you here. My dear friend Diane is here.
Thank you, Ed. I want to address this poison rodent and spray issue here in Ojai. I've been gone about 6 months, so I don't know if anything's been done to change it. But I live out on Grand Avenue. And last year, the pest control people were spraying like mad all the orchards, and they were spraying during the week near the schools. And they were putting the signs up that had, like the poison face and all that, like, don't come near. Well, the wind was blowing all of these sprays right to the schools while the children were playing on breaks. So we had that to face. So I have about 2 acres of oranges, and Patty helped me use tea and God knows what to spray against bugs that were natural and harmless. Well, they wanted to come in and spray my orchards to kill some possible pesticide that might be moving this way. And I refused to let them in. So then they blocked me from selling my oranges. They wouldn't let them come in to pick my oranges. Legally, they sent me a notice because I didn't use the spray. So I was sitting there with 2 acres of oranges going rotten, so I paid people to pick my oranges and give them away. But this was against natural methods. What I do to stop rats is I take cotton and bathe them in peppermint oil, put them in my attic, and the rats stay away from peppermint oil. But I don't know who to go. I haven't been able to fight all this because I've been gone. But if we don't stop the sprays here in this town, we are poisoning all our food and ourselves right along, no matter what we try to do. And if we don't stop the poisoning the rodents, and I have found a couple of dead squirrels, and it broke my heart, and then, of course, the birds. So any advice that can be printed up that I can pass out to people, just dump the papers on me and I'll pass them everywhere. Or any advice that you can tell us, how do we fight these pesticide people, and how do we help with natural methods that Patty knows to spread the word? What can we do? Thank you.
It's important that we go door to door. Because of this preemption law, the pesticide companies have not enabled us to ban these pesticides throughout your community. So your good city here has passed a resolution that says they themselves will not use these pesticides on their parks and recreation areas in the city's area. And they urge all of the businesses and you residents not to use these pesticides either. So what needs to be done here is a local campaign that has a united force. So when you see these poison bait boxes outside of your shopping malls, outside of your schools, you join together with your local groups. You've got 2 local groups here, and start educating. Our organization is about educating homeowners, schools, residents about the problems with pesticides, so they have a choice. So when they do have a rodent problem, when they do have an issue of any kind of insect, they will first think, Do I reach for the poison bottle, or shall I reach for an alternative of how I can solve this solution without pesticides, even organics? So we recommend a policy and a path of integrated pest management, which teaches you how to look for the reason why these you have an excess of either rodents or insects in your area, and how to resolve this without the use of pesticides, even organics. So you must unite, and when you see this, we will talk to the manager. That's what I did in Malibu, and I've been very successful there. You hand them educational packages. They don't realize, basically, that these poison bait boxes are poisoning our wildlife, pets, and children. They assume that the mouses go into the box and they die in the box, and the pest control people come and they take away the dead bodies. This is not true. There is nobody in those poison bait boxes. All the animals who eat the poisons exit, and this is how the chain of death succeeds and continues.
Could I add something to that? Also, what ends up happening is this poison goes up the food chain. You're killing off the natural predators of these pests. So what ends up happening is these predators that normally used to keep the pest problem under control now start disappearing. So now you become even more dependent on these pesticides that you do not want to be using.
Because you've been killing the predators, the owls, the hawks. 80 to 90% of our wildlife is being poisoned by these poison bait boxes.
Yikes. We need to get you on mic. I'm sorry, we won't be able to get real close there.
It doesn't work.
There you go.
There we go.
Oh,
There we
okay,
go.
sorry. So Beth, I have a background in children's education about wildlife. I used to teach wolf biology, et cetera. And do you have those kinds of programs in schools? You do?
Yeah, great question. I actually do. One of my favorite things to do is to go to schools.
Yes,
the kids get it. They get the need for connectivity. They get it because they have trouble crossing the road to get to parks in the middle of the city. They have names for these mountain lions. P22 is called Shane. They ask why he doesn't have dates. But yeah, we actually have we have an eco schools program, and we actually have a curriculum that we do. We're very involved with the LA School District around the series of events that were featured in the film, which we hope you will all come to. P22 Day is October 22nd this year. We are doing the hike again if you want to join us. It's a fun hike, although there are some parts that, literally I didn't think we would survive. Yeah, not getting hit by a car. I don't know how P22 did it. But we have curriculum, we have school activities. We just came out with the Cougars of LA trading cards that the teachers are using to teach about the Cougars in the study. So see me after and I can give you resources, but my favorite thing to do is to give talks in the schools, and they're doing incredible projects around P22 and connectivity as a human concept and a human problem as well, which I love.
Well, one thing is that I think education materials are so critical because I think people don't even understand what warfarin does. I mean, I even had a case where I came home one day, my landlord had put rat poison and water in my backyard, and I don't have rats, and, he's under the assumption that warfarin is safe. But my main question was, when you go back to the toxins that were found in P22 when he was tested, were there herbicides? Is the food chain going also from herbivores consuming herbicides into carnivores as well?
They're all getting hit by it, as far as I know, all the many levels of the food chain. They're getting something like that. Pesticides, fungicides, herbicides, rodenticides, it's a horrible cocktail that nearly all of them are getting. But somebody educate me, is that the case or not, Beth?
I don't know that they tested him for the herbicides. They definitely, when, that terrible photo of him that he just looks sick, I think the rodenticides was what they identified. But there's no question in my mind. I mean, I oversee conservation work for the National Wildlife Federation all over California, and I don't know a researcher I haven't talked to that poisons, whether it be herbicides or rodenticides or you name any number of chemicals, isn't an issue in their research. So But I think for the, especially for the carnivores, the rodenticides are the stronger ones.
Yes. And it was the, what happened to P22 is the first generation anticoagulants was found in P22 that are still available on the market, and you could still buy these at your local store. So we are working, as we have spoken before, about how to ban both of these horrible rodenticides from the pest control companies. And this is what we're working hard with our Assembly bill right now, Assembly Bill 1687. Please help support this bill as we move forward against this wall of resistance from the pest control industry.
And can I just say, I mean, P22 is not safe from this. He could be re-exposed at any time, and it's just so important. I love partnering. Poison Free Malibu is doing such important work because we could get this crossing built, but if these poisons don't go away, you're going to see these mountain lions and other wildlife exposed. I think the good news is education works on most people. I mean, Jerry Brown, he got, he's actually, made some more progress than in other states. Showing him a video of a golden eagle dying. Most people, when you tell them this is what it does, I think wants to help. But we need to get these bans, and we need to get communities passed and build on, continue the good work of Poison Free Malibu, because P22, for all he went through, crossing 2 major freeways, the guy's a lonely bachelor who will never have a date. He's still in danger of dying if he consumes another coyote. So it is just key to build on the work of Poison Free Malibu and continue it and expand it.
Hi, do I press this? Hi, I just want to follow up on Diane's point. I live out where the orange groves are, and I think the biggest issue in California has to do with commercial spraying. That's all involved in commercial spraying. And in Ojai, I know we tried really hard to try to prevent it. So I think we have the issue in terms of individual people and their own homes, but we have to make a statement that we don't want commercial spraying of the places we live. I mean, it's unhealthy for the animals, it's unhealthy for the people, and there's been many studies done where you kill one animal or one little bug, and then another little bug ends up taking over because the bug that ate him is gone. So I mean, this sort of chain reaction is something we need to work on in terms of the big issue. And the commercial industry is one of the biggest problems in California. Thank you.
Yeah, the fact is you have to continually run faster on the pesticide treadmill to stay in place, because of things that have been spoken about earlier. Pests develop resistance to it, different flies and bugs and what have you, and all sorts of vermin develop resistance to it, and you have to use more and more, and you know what happens then. Not good. Where's the mic right now?
Right here. I was hoping to, ask just specifically about that bill, if that's in the back. I get so worried that all these secret votes and things that keep getting put through, if they're taking out our local ability to make a difference, what action do you really need from us to help, other than our money and our contribution in terms of phone calls, or what kind of action steps you need? And I was also hoping, Ed, if maybe we could have Patty Pageling just give us a quick update, since so many of us are local and present, and I just love the cinematography to bring it so close to home of actually what's happening, and very grateful. But if Patty could just tell us where we have accomplished, because she'd been working so hard on the pesticide free, and what's happening, because I often look about our local crossovers, just how our animals are unable to get across and make their lives sustainable. So those two would be, my hopes, if we could have a moment to do that.
Well, let me just give you an update on exactly what we need to really solve the problem is state legislation. Okay, so where are we on this bill? We have this great assemblyman in our district in Malibu, Richard Bloom, and he has been working, and we have been working with his staff and other organizations all throughout California. And he proposed a bill and registered it officially in January. And the first thing that has to happen is it goes to a particular committee. In this case, it goes to a committee called the Environmental Safety and Toxic Materials. A particular committee is the first gate. And we went up there, I went up there, and a couple of times we went to talk to the chairman of that committee, whose name is Bill Quirk. And he's basically a good guy. The Democrats control everything, so he is a Democrat. But in terms of priorities, we need, and he's actually a scientist, which is good and bad. It means he will face reality, but he's also a little bit hard to convince. So what we're doing now is trying to get the experts like Jeff Sikich and Seth Riley and a couple of others to meet with him to really present him clearly with the situation. In my opinion, that's what's needed, and that's where we are. So one thing that would help is this is going to go through the assembly, so who is your assembly person here? And meet with them, get them upset, make sure they react incredibly to constituents. And one thing about politics, I'm not I'm a pro-politician person. I mean, it's amazing how responsive they are to constituents. We've even had conservative Republicans, help us tremendously in other battles that we've had in the past. So warm up your local assembly person.
This is a non-political issue. This goes over the lines. So this is very important. Take a look at our website, poisonfreemalibu.org. This will give you a lot of information of what we've been doing and how you can help your local communities. Patty Pageling and has done a wonderful job here, and Molly has done a wonderful uniting of your community, and I suggest please rally around these two wonderful women here, and they could guide you in a really wonderful way of how you could move your community forward, because you do have the issue with your agriculture, and agriculture is deeply married to the chemical companies. So you are facing a big battle here.
And there's members of the Ojai Valley Green Coalition out there in the lobby, and you can meet with them and hook up and get on their list and get materials from them and give them your information if you're of a mind to do so, and you can be part of it.
One step at a time, you can do it.
That's right.
So my question is, I felt I understand why the radio collars are attached, but I kind of felt bad for the animal having to, carry this thing around. But the thing is it Wi-Fi? Is it like a cell phone? So we all know that is immune suppressive of us. Apparently the manufacturers, if anyone actually reads the insert, says don't hold it against your skin. Try to have it 6 inches away. So when I saw the picture with the mange, obviously there can be multiple causes of illness, but I thought maybe it had suppressed its immune system, P22s. So I wonder if there's anything less bulky and maybe safer that could be, or maybe put elsewhere. I don't know, not right next to the head.
No, it's a good question. Listen, I'm an animal rights vegan, so those collars I have mixed feelings about. But I wore one for 4 days, and I can tell I hardly felt it. So the problem why they can't make them smaller now, although I think we'll get to the point where it'll just be a little insert, and we really do need this data. The reason these cats are still here, and that we are, and the reason we know where to put the crossing is because of these studies. But it's the battery life. If you make the battery smaller, you're going to have to recollar them more. So these batteries last about a year right now. The mange is actually, obviously, right now they think related to the rat poison lowers their immune system, and that's why. I don't know that they've looked at. I wouldn't rule it out. On the other hand, they have collars on 10 to 15 cats a year, and they are not getting mange from it. So, I think probably the side effects are low. I don't know they've ever done a study, but I do think we'll get to the day where they are smaller and less obtrusive. But I can say from experience, I was actually amazed at how little I felt that thing, and I don't have a big neck with fur, so. And he's a Hollywood cat too. He needs some bling, so. Yeah.
Yeah, I happen to know that there's some projects going on with some engineering of some tags so small they're going to be able to put them on butterflies. But it will require sending up new satellites into space that are going to be flying a lot lower, so it's very expensive to do.
And just so you also asked, they get a point about every hour if they're in GPS range, so it's not always guaranteed. And then they also have a VHS signal, so they can track radio telemetry on the cats as well. But you have to know the signal. Not just anybody can go out there and find where they are. So.
Hi, I have a question about the crossings.
Sure.
Are you working on one crossing or a crossing for the 405 and the where's the one by Griffith Park, the 101? What will that do? You know, if you only have one crossing.
Right.
Yeah.
So I sit on a statewide corridor group, so I'm not stopping at the 101. That's just the most critical need right now. If that is not done soon, the National Park Service published a study. These cats, this local population, will go extinct. It is the most. It is a wall. It is a barrier. They are genetically blocked and isolated, and they are inbreeding, and their genetic diversity is collapsing. And when you take out, there's only a few males in the Santa Monica Mountains, and when you start taking out males from being hit by cars and from rodenticide poisoning, it can be game over quicker than that 50 years. That 50-year projection is just based on inbreeding and going the way of the Florida panther with starting to show birth defects. And so the 101 has been identified as the absolute, this has to get done, and it is the most critical need. Once that's in, though, you have my word, I'm not stopping. The 5 is another critical, especially in the Santa Clarita area. There was the cat featured in the movie was killed there, and plus that's Greenway. And then you have the 118 and the 126, which the cats actually have better success getting across, but they still, it could still absolutely use some improving. But the good news is, I think, about these crossings and, the Liberty Canyon one, which again, this is our backyard, and this is gonna be the biggest in the world in an urban setting. We are setting a worldwide model here. And I'll tell you, the world is watching. We get donations from Florida and Hong Kong. P22 does something. I get a call from the BBC. There's something about helping these trapped cats that's really captured the imagination. But it's also spurring more of these to go in the US. We're a little behind other countries. Banff, if you've been there, has some wonderful crossings, the Netherlands. So I think what you're going to see is not only is this going to help save this population of cats, but it's going to spur people across the country to do more of these projects. They're really starting to catch on, and our crossing here that's going to be, kind of in your backyard is really going to set a model. So, and if you want more information, SaveLACougars.org. We have plenty of information at the table up there as well, and I'll be here to talk after. But this excites the imagination. We are doing something really visionary and unprecedented here. It'll help save this population of mountain lions from extinction, but it's also going to save this ecosystem. It is reconnecting an ecosystem that has long been fragmented because of these freeways. So that to me is really exciting.
Yeah, the way I think of it is we're really not doing something so wonderful. We're fixing a screw up. We shouldn't have done this in the first place. I mean, they were a perfectly fine population, and we were fixing something that we shouldn't have done, and maybe new roads will be built correctly.
Is there anything we can learn from the Florida panther, what's going on there in Florida with those beautiful creatures? Anything that we can learn from them or they can learn from us?
Absolutely. I toured the Florida Panther Refuge, and that is the low bar that the biologists use. I mean, their genetic diversity had collapsed to a point where they had to bring in, cats from Texas. They were showing birth defects, and those guys are still, I wouldn't say completely out of the woods yet. So I went and toured. They're using fencing. Florida, we think of Florida as a state that is not environmentally friendly. They deny climate change, but they spent over $100 million, to help this cat. So I think what we can learn there is it is going to take our efforts. We did screw up. They screwed up there. We screwed up here. So I think learning, A, that we don't want to approach that low bar because it gets too iffy, and B, that human intervention can help. Every situation is going to be different. There, it's not overpasses. It's more, but it can help. And here, again, as we said in the movie, we can do something about this.
One more? Okay, we got time for one more question. Who wants the final word?
Beth, I've got a microphone here.
All right. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Go with that mic.
getting down to more the nitty gritty, Beth.
Sure.
You at the Getty, you did talk about a big announcement, which I guess isn't coming yet.
I know. I was so hoping today.
But the movie talks about a completion date.
Yes.
Is there any potentially set start date?
So here's where we're at. I'll do a very quick summary. So when we started this campaign in 2014, it was an idea, wasn't even a design. We, with Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, put up the feasibility study, and that was completed in 2015. So we knew it could be, before then we didn't even know if it could be done. Save LA Cougars, and I know some of you donated, thank you. We raised the $1 million needed. The State Coastal Conservancy put it up to do the environmental documents phase, which is underway right now. It is a very boring phase. I have nothing fun to share with you unless you like CEQA regulations. But that is going to be done this fall. And we have them through the campaign because of support of people like you funded through that phase. They will then in December go into final design and engineering if we stay on track with fundraising. And our fundraising goal for the end of this year to do that is $10 million. We're at $3 million, and I really do hope, and part of that, the Annenberg Foundation put up another $1 million. We've raised over almost $400,000 from small donations, those like $10 donations from Hong Kong. So if I do my job and we stay on track with fundraising this year, it'll go into final design and engineering with that $10 million. And then if we do our job to raise the construction dollars, another $40 million, this will be done by early 2022, which means they will start it sometime in late 2019. So again, all that stands before, there's no bad guy here. I don't have to fight anybody. The land's protected on both sides. Caltrans wants to do it. They're just like, get us the money. The city of Agora Hill passed a resolution saying they want it. This is an easy one. It's checks. I like that.
Thank you all. What a great panel. A big hand for this wonderful panel and this wonderful movie. I want to thank our wonderful mayor who's right there, Johnny. Thank you for being a wonderful mayor. And I want to thank also City Council member Sousa Francina, who's here. And there's a present for me. Oh my gosh, I don't deserve it, but it should go to these people.
The people of Ojai who love you.
Yes.
I present you with this.
What is it?
Can I open it now? I'm going to open it right now so I can cavell. Hold on one second. I'm going to do some interpretive dance while I'm opening this.
Well, he's opening that. Before you go, be sure to get your photo with P22. He has a Facebook page.
Get a picture with the...
And you can post it to his Facebook page.
Look at this. Here's a beautiful sculpture of a mountain lion. This is gorgeous beyond words. Can you all see this? What a great gift. Thank you.
Thank you so much for everything. And I want to especially thank Molly Jordan, who
Yes.
picked it up.
Thank you, Molly Jordan, so much. Molly Jordan Koch and Hawk Koch, and I got to thank a few other people. I thanked Sousa. Get together with these brilliant people from Malibu to see what they've done, and we can build on their successes and do it here in Ojai. You got a card, fill it out, make a donation. Sorry, what were you saying?
You can definitely do it here. I did it in Malibu. It just takes people going from store to store, from business to business, HOA to HOA, school to school. We've got the Oak Park School District is celebrating their 1 year with 6 schools being pesticide-free. And I'd like to see, and they use no pesticides whatsoever. And I'd like to see that happening in your school systems, especially starting there because of the susceptibility of your children and your businesses. We'll go one-to-one, and we'll educate each and every one of them, and we'll get rid of those poison bait boxes. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Stick around and talk to us. I want to give you a message of hope. We clean up the air to a large extent in the city of Los Angeles. The smog was horrible when I grew up in the 50s and 60s. We have 4 times the cars, millions more people, but a fraction of the smog. We all did that, so be proud of what you can do.
Woo!
Yep.